Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Jack Hagel. A fatal shooting inside a UNC lab building sent the Chapel Hill campus into a frenzied lockdown on Monday. In the hours that followed, the story emerged: a manhunt, an apprehension, and then a student charged with killing his professor. Today, WRAL's executive producer for Enterprise joins us to break down the latest. Ashley Talley, welcome back.
Thanks, Jack.
First, I should note that we're recording this on Wednesday, August 30th, 2 days after the shooting. This is a developing story, so for the latest, go to WRAL.com. Ashley, since this story broke, WRAL has been able to quickly piece together details about the victim and the suspect in this horrific case. I want to start with the victim, Zhizhe Yan. WRAL was first to report his identity. What did we find out about him?
Well, I'm going to turn that back on you because we were first to report it because we brought a lot of our Enterprise team into the newsroom that day as all this was unfolding. You, along with a couple others, were really digging into when we had heard that this might be a targeted shooting, who might be Chi's target, and so you had done a ton of backgrounding. I know. Do you want to talk about kind of how you came to that conclusion?
Well, that's right. So early on in the process, Pritchard Strong, Brian Murphy, and myself, we started looking into the suspect. We obviously did just some basic internet research, but we quickly learned that he was working with a pretty prominent nanotechnology professor, and the professor was listed as his academic advisor. We had heard through radio traffic that it was happening in the lab that was assigned to this professor. And so we were quickly able to sort of narrow it down to a couple professors who were based in that lab. And from there, we just kind of went with our gut on whether or not it might be these people. We were hearing at the time that it was one victim. And so we just kind of went on a hunch and we started researching, and it turned out to be correct.
And to be clear, we didn't report that until we actually got the warrants for arrest the next morning. So Tuesday morning, when we picked up the arrest, it had Dr. Yen's name in it. So we were able to go ahead and you already had its background and everything because, you had done all this research on him. One thing that I thought was interesting, too, that helped us tie the two together is people may not know, but when something like this happens, we are able to go back and listen to archived 911 calls and emergency or like police talking to one another on their, radios. And during that, we're scrubbing through tons and tons of audio. We heard them say room 159. And I'm pretty sure you were the one who was able to deduce that that was Dr. Yen's.
That's right. And, during the lockdown, we were obviously trying to find out anybody from this department to see who knew him. So, I mentioned Pritchard Strong earlier. He was reaching out to students who were involved in the applied physical sciences department. Brian Murphy was reaching out to friends and contacts that he could glean from social media. I just started calling professors who were in the department, one of whom answered the phone. He sounded very hushed, so he may have actually been in the building, hung up on me, of course, and then asked me not to call back when I called him again. And so,
because that was when the lockdown was still going on.
It was.
This was very early, yeah.
So we started just reaching out to anybody and everybody who may have some contact or may just trying to understand, may be able to explain to us what had happened here.
Once we had his background, once we knew that he was indeed Chi's faculty advisor, we were able to learn more about him. We learned that he had a wife and two daughters, 2 years old and 7 years old. We went to the wife's house Tuesday night, and there were several people outside, friends, family members gathered outside and, said that they didn't want to talk at that time. We went back on Wednesday and did talk a little with the wife and the mother-in-law. We found out they were separated, but, just didn't want to talk. And understandably, the two young girls have just lost their father. She's just lost a husband. So I think the way that we've come to know the most about Dr. Yen, perhaps, is talking yesterday with one of his own faculty advisors from where he did his graduate work, I guess. Doug Chrissy is his name. He's a professor at Tulane now. We first knew about Doug Chrissy because he posted this really moving tribute to Dr. Yen on Facebook. And our anchor, Chris Lovingood, was able to actually speak with him last night. That would be Tuesday night. And he learned some really interesting things from him, including that last month, so July of 2023, he had gotten an email from Dr. Yen, with whom he was close, telling him that he had a graduate student that he was worried about and that he had conveyed his concern to his department. He wouldn't give us a copy of that email, and understandably, he said it contained some other personal information, so that's totally understandable why he wouldn't want to. But that was the first time we'd heard that Dr. Yen may have had some inkling, or that something else may have happened where he felt that something was off with Chi. At this point, what we do with that is we put in public records for emails and everything, because UNC Chapel Hill is a public university. All of the emails are public information. Now, it'll take probably weeks, maybe even months for us to get those back, but they will perhaps be more revealing about the conversations that were had before that. So, this is a long-term story that we'll be covering for years to come.
Well, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll hear more about the suspect and the ongoing investigation into Monday's fatal shooting at UNC. Stick around. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. We're talking with WRAL Enterprise executive producer Ashley Talley about this week's fatal shooting at UNC. Ashley, in our reporting about the victim, we also learned more about the suspect and how he was connected to Yen.
We did, and this started as soon as the university released a picture of him. It turned out that the picture they released was the one that they had, because it was his profile photograph on their website, on their, for his department. It was also his Twitter photo, and it was in some LinkedIn as well, I believe. So the picture, it was clear enough. We were able to confirm that it was this person, Talley Chi. And so we were able to start learning about him immediately. We found out that he was a second year PhD student at UNC, that he had done graduate work at LSU. I actually called a friend of mine who was in the news in Baton Rouge to tell him to see if there had been any incidents at LSU. So they got back to us and confirmed that he had received his master's there. We also know one thing that he and the victim had in common is that they both went to universities in Wuhan, China. Not the same university, and it's a pretty large city, but, it's interesting, likely at different years, but they did have that in common. So we know that they were working close together, and we actually, went back through Chi's tweets and found references to what appeared to be some complaints about a person who oversaw his work from the past. So that was interesting and sort of started. None of us know what the motive is at this point, right? Chi has not spoken with anybody. He's not. He didn't leave a message with anybody that we know of. So this is all intimation at this point. But we did pick up his arrest warrants on Tuesday morning, which again gave us Dr. Yen's name. It showed us that he was charged with murder and having a firearm on educational property, which is a felony in North Carolina. But what's interesting about that, we don't know where the gun is. They described it as a 9mm, but nobody has located it. Police are still looking for it.
That's right. They haven't recovered a weapon. They have told us that they're going to look through those social media posts. What else are they telling us about the investigation?
We were there yesterday while they were in the area where he was located. We also got the 911 call that was made by a neighbor who said that they saw him walking along their yard and then into the woods behind their house. Ostensibly, the police have searched there and have not found the weapon still. We also learned that he asked a neighbor the directions to MLK Boulevard. Don't know the significance of that or anything, and we have not talked with the person that he asked that of. It was told to us by a neighbor who had talked to that person. So just it was an hour and a half between the time that the shooting happened at 1:02 on Monday and the time he was apprehended right around 2:30. The next part of the justice process, obviously, is he is booked in jail. So he was booked in Orange County Detention Center, the county where Chapel Hill is. We had a mugshot for him. And then he had a court appearance yesterday at 2 p.m. These are usually pretty perfunctory. They go in, they get assigned a lawyer. There was actually a Mandarin translator for him. He had an earpiece in that you could tell he was listening to a translator for the hearing because we know that English was his second language. He was denied bond, as was expected, and several people had asked whether this could be a death penalty case. But the fact that it's being heard in Orange County, that DA ran on the platform of he would not pursue the death penalty in any case. So that's not on the table at this point.
Actually, these kinds of events are sadly increasingly common. So you would think that students would have some preparation for an event like this, but we've heard from some students and some faculty who say that they didn't know how to respond. What are they saying?
Several parents have reached out to us and said that they were concerned that their children, students there, were in classrooms where the doors didn't lock when they tried to do so, that some of them didn't feel prepared. This was only the 6th day of classes there for the year. So as a freshman, you're still figuring out where, the dining hall is. It's unclear right now what sort of drills or information might be distributed to freshmen or any students for that matter. But we certainly have heard from some concerned parents about the protocols that are going on there. We have video of kids jumping from second floor windows. Whether that's advised or not, that tells you the fear that was all over that campus that day. One of the most telling videos I've seen is one we just got today. It's a guy I believe on Instagram. He's British, and he's only been in the U.S. 1 week. And he is, it's almost like he's narrating a video for friends or family. He's like, look at these beautiful trees where I'm walking through campus. And then he hears the siren. And he's like, I have no idea what that is. He verbally says that. And he's like, I guess I'm just going to keep walking. And, he's coming up to campus. You can start to see some buildings in the background. And then you hear a voice that says, armed and dangerous person on campus, go inside, something like that. They say it twice. It's giving me chills just talking about it now, watching that and hearing the fear in that guy's voice when he starts running and you see the video and all the other students are running. And at one point he goes, America. But it's just so, I've never been in that situation. I can't even imagine the terror that those students were feeling. And the video continues. It's a bunch of students gathering in an empty classroom. One of them says, I think we should just close and lock the door. And they do that. So this is something that these students won't ever forget. I know it'll stick with many of them for a really long time. And just as a side note to how it affected the community as a whole, all Chapel Hill Carborough schools were put on lockdown during this as well. We're talking elementary school kids. This was the first day of school. So you sent your kid to school on the very first day. They weren't able to leave at the end of the day. They had the buses lined up, but they were still under lockdown. That just shows how widespread the impact of this is. I mean, it impacts every one of us, right? That has covered it, that's read it, that, can't imagine being a professor to a student who's going to do this to you. But you also, think about sending your kid to their first day of college or their first day of kindergarten. And I think it'll be with us and with that community for a really long time.
How has the campus responded since then?
They have been so supportive of one another. We have a UNC student who works with us here part-time, and he has been sending us messages of all the kids are talking on Yik Yak. That's it's not that new actually, but it's another platform where students communicate. At 1:02 today, they had a bell ringing ceremony for Dr. Yin at the bell tower, 48 hours after his life was taken from him. And tonight, they had a vigil last night at 9 where hundreds of students came together. And again, tonight, it was supposed to be at the pit, but because of a hurricane coming this way, they're now having it at the Dean Smith Center. So the classes were canceled, Monday afternoon, Tuesday, and today, Wednesday, but they do start back tomorrow. It really seems like the students are the ones driving the community feeling. As far as I know, the university is organizing them too, I think. And the Alumni Association organized one for tonight as well. But, it really feels like the students want to be together. They're drawing closer. They went through this thing together and they want to support each other.
Anytime that there are tragic events, the examination of what went wrong sometimes leads to positive changes. Is there any silver lining that can come from something so horrific?
I think that that's yet to be seen. I think that we are still in the shock and figuring out what happened stage. A week from now, I hope that that's the case. I hope that new safety protocols are put in place or, kids are retrained on what to do in the situation. I hate it that they have to be, but you're right. Maybe that is some kind of silver lining that could come from this. We'll have to see.
Well, whatever happens, I know that WRAL will be there to cover it. Ashley, thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
That's WRAL executive producer Ashley Talley. For all of our coverage on the UNC shooting, visit WRAL.com. I'm Jack Hagel. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and for making us part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.